name is Zoe. Here are things about me. Basically, I graduated from Sam Fox School of Design and Visual Art at Washington University. I came from upstate New York originally. I stuck around for a job at this company that once was called Explain. That company is sort of gone now. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But sticking around at this job kind of introduced me to the St. Louis scene. So I started to get really involved in a bunch of sort of freelance-y extracurricular gigs after I was done with that job, and Sloop was one of them, like Tara mentioned. I started doing a lot of Design Week stuff. And then I went into business for myself, and I dropped basically all of those things, and now all I do is greetable, and I'll tell you about kind of what that means. So when I came to WashU, when I went to design school, I came in thinking that on day one I was going to be doodling my name and making beautiful pictures. I'm assuming everybody in the world at this point knows Jessica Hish. Or maybe making posters for fancy new artists. And it turns out that I wasn't doing any of those things. Instead, I somehow winded up turning in this as an actual assignment for a grade, and I got an A. Because art school is so weird, right? So you're creating things that are just, you can't even imagine how that's actually work. And I'm sure at the time I could have justified to you what this was. Now I really don't remember. It just looks like a lot of blue lollipops. I think I painted them all by hand, which, who knows? But I quickly learned in our core training that in art school we were spending less time on the computer and more time using our hands, which was really surprising to me and honestly very uncomfortable. We had to kind of learn that there were no rules and that anything was possible. So this is another project that I swear to God I got an A on as well. The whole project was an experiment with lighting. I was a class called Color Systems, and I'm sure there was more to the project than just like mess around with lighting, but basically I bought a lot of colored light bulbs and an Elvis Beanie Baby and posed it in a bunch of, there were more than this too. I worked on this for a while. And legitimately, the critique for this project was about 30 minutes long. And I just remember thinking, what other major could you get away with this kind of stuff in? So eventually, we got into some more traditional graphic design projects. This was junior year, so this is the kind of project that I was at the time really, really pumped about because we'd been working on lollipops all of this time, and we can finally do something that was a little bit more exciting, this cool CD project. And this is one of those projects that I'm simultaneously totally embarrassed to share with you guys, but at the same time still secretly a little bit proud of. Basically, if you guys remember Kanan, he made that song Waving Flag that everyone knows as the World Cup theme song, and it sounded like it was about a waving flag for the World Cup, but actually if you study into it a little bit more, it's about his flight from the Somalian Civil War, and it's pretty deep and traumatic and intense. So I made this CD art about kind of what he was going through, and I made this book jacket that folds up in all sorts of funky ways so that when you unfold it, it kind of looks like a waving flag, but a heavily, heavily photoshopped waving flag, because that's the phase I was going through at the time. And this is the Somalian flag, I guess, but just with a bunch of grungy edits and filters. And so that's kind of the projects that we were doing at that time. Senior year, one of my projects was to redesign. We could do whatever we wanted, but I chose to redesign the New York State driving manual. And this is the driving manual that is still in use today. I learned how to drive using this manual. It's 106 pages long, and it's given to 16-year-olds so that they're qualified to operate a vehicle. And so, yeah, it's terrifying, I heard someone say. So I just redesigned it. I mean, there's nothing really much to it. I just made it, in my opinion, better. It was all the same exact information, literally the same words verbatim, but, did a little bit of research in what teens needed to read, and also I was 19, so I was 18, and I figured out that bright colors and pacing and storytelling was really, really helpful. So just redesigned that kind of thing. So I guess that the takeaway here is that this kind of book would never, ever fly if the New York State Department of Motor Transportation, whatever it is, vehicle something, had done it themselves. And that's not because the person who's making this book was not interested in teaching kids how to learn, but that person had all sorts of liabilities, red tape that they had to work through, and this book is basically a catch-all for all of the information that they wanted to fit into a teeny little space, which I thought was pretty ineffective considering their mission was to educate teens. Anyway, so I'm getting ahead of myself. After I graduated college, I started working with a company that took the whole design thinking thing to a new level. I'm just gonna put this here. So some of you might have heard of Explain before. Basically, the whole concept behind Explain is that we took really, really complicated ideas for Fortune 500 companies and turned them into something much more simple. So kind of like their tagline was that you take a 90-page manual that IBM is laying out for a new campaign that they're launching and turn it into a 90-second video or a print map or something much more simple. So it was really great because as a designer, I sort of learned how to be a consultant, and we'd fly out and meet with some high-powered CMO somewhere and figure out what they were struggling with, draw on the walls a bunch, which actually surprisingly really worked to make sure that we were all on the same page, and make a recommendation. So sometimes it'd turn into a 90-second video, sometimes an interactive data visualization, or sometimes even board games. We did some sort of like, actually after the BP oil spill, we did a board game for BP to help them understand what the hell was going on within their company and who to talk to. So it was sort of like a choose your own adventure. Previously, you wouldn't know where to get parts, so you would kind of go through this board game and figure out, all right, here's who I have to talk to if this happens. So it was really interesting because it was very functional, and that was the only goal behind the projects that we did. Anyway, this is what some of our notes would look like. It might sound corny, but the goal was basically to completely rethink things if they needed to be rethought. We'd get to the foundation of what was going on with exercises like empathy maps, and it was almost like approaching these things as a non-subject matter expert was more valuable than knowing a lot in the field, because a lot of these people were so bogged down in what they were doing they couldn't really see through the fog. So all of this leads me to this, which is actually an inside-out cereal box. I got to work on a lot of cool projects and a lot of cool startups after I stopped working for Explain. It got acquired by another company, basically, and everyone quit. But when this client named Joe came to me with this idea of a greeting card that folded up into a gift box, I was super excited for the design potential. So we started out really simple on a contract freelance basis, and I was just gonna be designing some patterns for him that would turn into greeting card designs, and that was pretty much it. Eventually it turned into a little bit more branding as well, but it was very much like a contract freelance basis is how we got started. After about a month or so, we had a minimum viable product. This actually wasn't the minimum viable product. I was just so embarrassed to show you the actual minimum viable product, so I'm not going to. This is like a couple iterations later. But within a couple months of working on Greetable, Joe and I started to get involved in a lot of decisions that weren't traditional design. So like we're choosing the name for the company, or we're thinking about what our target market is. And it were things that I didn't really have experience doing. I definitely felt out of my wheelhouse, but also at the same time, I really didn't feel unqualified, which was kind of cool. And it was really exciting at the time to feel like I was creating a company with somebody out of nothing, even though it was sort of like a contract basis. So pretty soon, I started talking to him about, I think this is a really cool thing. I'd like to be involved more substantially. And so I became a co-founder and a partner and started working full-time as the chief product officer at Greetable. This is just sort of a filler slide of what it looked like when I made a logo for Greetable. So I was really crazy excited to be a partner, but if I'm being totally honest, my big concern for a long time was that I wasn't gonna be a designer anymore. So because there's so much more involved in running a company than just the design, and there were only 2 of us to start, I felt like I wouldn't have that much design to do, and it felt like this major life change. Like I had this identity crisis where I didn't know what to fill in at the doctor's office or on the customs form when it said, "What are you?" And I'd be like, "Entrepreneur, I don't know, like, am I a designer?" And you know, my Twitter bio suffered a little bit, had to figure out what to write there. But I guess my underlying concern was that maybe I would be unfulfilled if I wasn't doing design all the time. So that was 2013, and now I want to tell you basically what I actually do. We call Greetable the total little package, and it's designed to make gift giving personal and also painless. So think when a friend across the country gets a new job or your sister in DC has a bad day and a greeting card isn't really enough, but flowers for $50+ or scouring the internet endlessly is way too much. So we're trying to solve what we call the gifting gap, TM, but by making something that's affordable but also personal. So at its core, it's this photo customized greeting card that folds up into a gift box and pairs with a fun gift to be sent directly to your recipient, all for $10 to $30. So basically, this is our website. I'm going to walk you through what it looks like to purchase a greetable. You would either just get started with mixing and matching whatever kind of illustrations and gifts you want, or we have these limited edition collaborations we do, as well as a holiday gift shop. If you go to the mix and match section, it's going to kind of lead you through a bunch of different designs. If you want to, you can learn all about these designers and their processes, stuff like that. So we'll select the birthday print, and it'll take us to the tab saying gifts, and we can choose from all of these, kind of pre-selected gifts designed with you, Mike Spakowski, in mind. Mike told me that he's the target audience for this. He told me he promised he was going to buy a bunch of greetables after this, so he said so. So they're fun things, like all of them are attached to sentiments. We have like a wine-flavored lollipop or candles, like little cup of love tea, basically things that are all between $2, which is our cheapest, to $25 for this sleep mask, but all of them kind of mean something. They could say congratulations, they could say happy birthday, they could say, you've been working really hard, relax, or something like that. And so it's going to take you to this customization area, and you basically customize it with whatever you want. So it hooks up to Instagram, it hooks up to, we're doing this first. If you want to write a message, it has, message options, different sentiments down there that you can either use to get started and then edit them, or just write your own custom message. And then it's going to hook up to Instagram or to your computer, and you could customize those 3 boxes as well. And those will actually tear off so that you can put them on, the pictures on your fridge or cubicle or whatever you want. So this is to Sarah, love Jess. And you're going to go ahead and check out with that, and you can check out with 2, 3, 4, however many you want, and send them all to different shipping addresses. So it might not seem like that crazy of a website, but we built it from ground up, which was really, really crazy. We basically had to deal with all of these issues, like sending multiple things to different shipping addresses. That's not very common in e-commerce. Figuring out how to customize these pictures, how to get an automatic PDF generated after you build one of these, sending that directly to print, things like that are not traditionally what I consider design. They're a little bit more logistical, but that's sort of what I've been doing. And when it gets there, it's this physical, neat little package. We tried to make everything perfect for the recipient we're targeting. So the gift boxes to the inserts to the way that we package it, everything is kind of like neatly done and very intentional. The reason that I'm explaining what I do to you is really tough. So what I said before, it's not really one particular thing. It's whatever it takes to make what I just showed you happen. So I'm reaching out potential press, I'm selecting gifts, I'm curating our design selection from illustrators from all over. I'm communicating with vendors, tackling analytics, pitching investors, setting up booths at trade shows or whatnot, managing my time, managing other people's time, planning strategically for the future, and then occasionally, very infrequently, spending Adobe time. And maybe I'm crazy, but I've actually learned to consider all of that stuff design. It was a really big relief, actually, to make this presentation, because looking back through all our old stuff and thinking about that anxiety I once had, I guess it just dawned on me recently that unfulfilled feeling that I was so worried about never really happened. I miss traditional aspects of design, with a capital D, but I feel like the way that Joe and I are designing an entire company together feels really big, and it still feels kind of like matched with what my training previously taught me. So to bring it all full circle, I'm going to go ahead and attribute projects like this to feeling this way. I think it's that mentality that you can start with anything and you can break the rules and create whatever you want out of whatever you want. That really fosters a sense of entrepreneurship and actually problem-solving things that need to get done. There's no proper design, or there's no proper training to be an entrepreneur in the first place, besides that you need to be ready for whatever. So you have to roll with the punches and find solutions for weird problems constantly. You have to be cool with taking non-traditional approaches, and in fact, it's a huge asset if you're taking non-traditional approaches. And I do think that the design training and art school training that I had and just general creativity really fosters you for the ability to do this, possibly more so than finding some how-to guide or studying marketing specifically or studying entrepreneurship in some way, where there seem to be formulae to do certain things. In design, you're kind of just taught, figure it out and make it work, and that is literally the main thing that is important in starting this business. This designers as entrepreneurship concept is definitely not new. It's just something that I had to learn for myself. If you guys know Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal, this was a book that I've been listening to on audiobook called 0 to 1. He says, it's true that every great entrepreneur is first and foremost a designer. Anyone who has held an iDevice or smoothly machined MacBook has felt the result of Steve Jobs' obsession with visual and experiential perfection. But the most important lesson to learn from Jobs has nothing to do with aesthetics. The greatest thing Jobs designed was his business. Jobs saw that you can change the world through careful planning, not by listening to focus group feedback or copying other successes. In April, an article came out in Fast Co. that's called Why Good Design is Finally a Bottom Line Investment, which says some crazy stuff like designers are the best ones situated to figure out how a kit of parts can become something more, and if design leads, relentless innovation is the norm. So basically, I would like to see designers feel more empowered to take on their own projects. It personally never occurred to me that I myself could be an entrepreneur until it was sitting in my lap. I don't think every designer needs to be an entrepreneur or start their own company, but at the very least, I want them to know it's possible and that you, as a creative person, already have what it takes. So this is my contact information. I don't know if I went way under. I feel like I did. No, I'm good? All right, well, I have nothing else to say, so it doesn't matter. This is me. Say hey.